present first?
Sure, no problem. Actually, I wanted to request to present first.
Oh, I see. All right. Okay, now the floor is yours.
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. Nice.
Okay, I switch off my video first, yeah, for better connection. Right, so good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to share my my research work that has been presented last year during this international conference on 7-powder methodology and advanced processes and system in manufacturing, UPSIM 2023. So this conference was held in Malacca last year, and I was invited as a invited speaker for this conference. So today I would like to share what I shared to my colleagues there on the title Investigation of Polylactic Nanoclay PLA MMT Surface Modification on Non-Isothermal Crystallization Green Nanocomposite. So I know the title here looks so technical, but I'll try to make sure whatever that I present here is that it's understandable for all. Right. So this is also a part of collaboration with Institute of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, UPM. We have a joint grant with them under Garan Putra GP IPM 2022. This is still ongoing project. So, all right. So let's move on to the facts. Okay. If you guys see this picture here, right? So the first picture here shows a truck with a truck. 10 million tons of plastics are dumped in our ocean annually. And that's equal to more than a garbage truck load every minute. So just imagine one garbage truck every minute is how much dump of plastic is being dumped into the ocean. And 50% of all plastic produced, which is about 380 million tons per year, is for single-use purpose, meaning that you pakai, you buang, you pakai, you buang. You use the plastic, you throw. Like the PET bottles, the mineral water, you go and tapao food, right? So when you go and take away food, is also made of plastic, single-use plastic. 100% of mussels tested have contained microplastic. So due to this all plastic being dumped to the ocean, there is like all the seafoods are being contaminated by microplastics. So microplastics is another big area that is now the current problem now. And 1 million of marine animals are killed by plastic pollutions every year. So we know that all the plastics can be recyclable, but statistics shows that less than 9% of all plastics get recycled. So these are all the motivation why we initiated this project, right? So humans, you see humans, we eat over 40 pounds of plastic in our entire lifetime. Just imagine whatever that we consume, whether it's fish, whether it's chicken, there is microplastic inside them because they've been consumed by the oceans or by the land, and we are actually consuming that. So by 2050, according to this paper, there will be more plastic in our oceans than fish by 2050 if we do not tackle the issue right now. So these are the motivation why we pursue this research. So there's increased use of plastic. The world is producing twice as much plastic waste as 2 decades ago. So now everything is plastic here, plastic there. They want to go. And plastic is made of petroleum. So if we are actually using our natural resources, and if we consume more natural resources, our future generation will not, sorry, our future generation will not be able to enjoy our natural resources. And pollution. Around 380 million metric ton of plastic are being produced yearly, and this is growing. And this is mainly due to single-use plastics. So we are trying to highlight these issues. So 9% of plastic waste is recycled, while 22% is mismanaged. So even if we do recycling, or we want to dispose plastic, it's very, very costly. So we need to highlight the issue that recyclability is not the only solution. We need to try to come out with biodegradable polymers. So that's why there is an increase interest of researchers of the industry companies. They are actually moving towards sustainable development. They are moving towards fully biodegradable polymers. This is to comply with our sustainable development goals, especially goal number 12, to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. So we as researchers and scientists, we are trying to find alternative to the single-use plastic. So why we need some alternative? So that we can actually develop low-cost, lightweight, biodegradable thermoplastic material. And this material should be environmentally friendly. So far, all good? Hello? Hello? Everything is good so far? Yes, okay. I'm scared. I'm just talking to myself.
All good,
You're
no
doing great.
worries.
You're doing great.
Okay. All right. So the problem statement of this research is due to the synthetic nature of biodegradable polymer, current production of biodegradable plastic is very expensive. So the aim previously from the problem, from the motivation, they say they are moving from plastic to biodegradable plastic. But this biodegradable plastic or biodegradable polymers are expensive. So the very common biodegradable polymer that is being used is PLA. PLA here stands for polylactic acid. So it's actually very high demand because of the versatility of this material. But this PLA is very expensive and it has some sort of brittleness. So it breaks fast. So, when we want to eat, let's say we want to eat Maggi or we want to eat this one. So if it breaks fast, it's brittle. So it's not so compatible or user-friendly. So we need to combine this PLA with other components or, for example, other reinforcement fillers that enable the production of high-quality products while utilizing low-cost material. So this is why we have chosen this specific reinforced material, which is called as montmorillonite, okay, MMT. So this MMT is a nanoclay, all right? So it's a ceramic material that it's actually emerging as a potential alternative material due to the low cost, biodegradability, and availability. So it's very cheap, it's biodegradable, and it can easily available. So if we combine this MMT into PLA, we can actually come out with a biodegradable polymer that have a good properties and to be suitable as an alternative for single-use plastics. However, there is some issue here. The incompatibility of MMT, hydrophilic filler, and PLA, hydrophobic matrix, continues to be significant barriers to progress, meaning that they have different properties. So when they have different properties, they cannot mix well. So we need to address this issue and we come up with certain processing techniques. So this is the overall research plan. So we have our raw materials here. So our raw materials is PLA. This PLA is extracted from sugarcane. So polylactic acid is biodegradable and is extracted from sugarcane. And nanoclay is clay. All right, it's natural resources, but it's biodegradable. So what we do here, we process, we try to form a connection. So the surface modification technique here is to form the connection because polymers, their structure is like this. Nanofillers, the structure is like this. So we need to form a bridge, a so-called bridge, so they can get a high-strength nanocomposite, which can be used as a single-use plastic. So this is also to enhance the circular economy concept. So we don't want cradle to grave. We want cradle to cradle. So meaning it has a nice, good circular economy concept that it can be, we can have no plastic in nature. So this is the overall research plan. So the objective of this specific research is to design and develop a PLA MMT nanocomposite. All right. And then we want to investigate the surface modification technique to address the compatibility issue, and then to evaluate the mechanical performance. So this is a detailed methodology. So what I do here, I take the nanoclay, which is your MMT. I do surface modification. So here, there is a lot of surface modification technique, but for this specific project, we concentrated of acetylation. Of course, this project is still ongoing, so we are trying to come out or to innovate a new surface modification technique. Okay, so here what I do acetylation. So I mix the MMT nanoclay. I mix it with hydrochloric acid and acetic anhydride into a magnetic stirrer. Then I try to wash it back and make it pH 7. And then I send, after I've dried it, crushed it, and then I send for a fundamental characterization to check. So this FDIR is to check whether this surface modification happens or not, whether I have formed the bridge just now that I mentioned just now. So after we have confirmed that, and then need the modified MMT, I will blend. Okay, so I will blend with PLA. So here we have chosen 1%, 3%, 5%, and 7% of MMT. This is the ratio. So altogether, I will have 4 samples. Then I mix it, I compound it, I come up with the pellets. So after I've come up with a pellet, I will go and compress, hot compress. I compress it and I come up with my sample. So now this is an initial research stage. So we have not come up with a final prototype of the plate. So we just come up with ASTM D638, the tensile test sample. So after we have come up with the sample, tensile strength samples, then we will do the characterization. So here we only, for this specific conference, we only focus or we only release the mechanical properties and the morphology properties. Okay, so far all good, right?
Good.
Okay, so now let's move on to the results and discussion. So the initial test that we did is FDIR result. So this FDIR result is to identify the functional group present. So since I did acetylation just now, so we need to make sure that the treated MMT, there is a peak. So here, acetylation typically introduces carbonyl groups around this 175, around this area to 1740. So the presence of the peak associated with C double bond O stretching vibration is around this area. So you can see here, this is not treated, this is with treated. There is a shift in the peak. And also there is a change in the region 2750 around this region. So you can see here, there is a shift in the peak here. So all these changes in the FDIR result confirms the presence of acetylation surface modification. Okay, then we have done the for the mechanical testing. So this is the tensile strength, elongation, and maximum force. So from here, we note that we have a significant, when we add 1% of PLA MMT, that means 1% of MMT reinforced into PLA, our tensile strength increased drastically. All right. So when we add more MMT, then the tensile strength reduced. So from 34 here, it reduced to 12, meaning that maybe too much of fibers inside the whole matrix will form agglomeration. Agglomeration means it will not form the network, the bridging. So the mechanical properties will degrade. So this is for 3%. Then after that, we saw that it is going on an increasing trend. But our aim is to just concentrate on 1%. So some of the defects that we have identified, okay, so this is caused by trapped air bubbles in the blend during the molten phase. So usually, right, the most important process in all this material development is the mixing process. So if you have done the mixing process effectively, there will be no problem in the final prototype. So maybe during the mixing process, there is a lot of air bubbles trapped. This air bubbles trap is due to the moisture exists from the raw material itself, meaning it might be the drying, sorry, the drying process is not sufficient. That means maybe during this process, my student didn't dry the material properly. Or maybe the temperature is too high that causes trapped bubbles. So you can actually see the voids here on the surface of uneven surface. Okay, and overall this affects the mechanical properties and the overall performance. So when we try to go back to this chart again, maybe the 1% is the quantity is little, so it's not significant. But when you add more fibers inside, then there will be more moisture. When there is more moisture, there will be more air bubbles, more voids. When there is more voids here, they won't form a good bridging, and there won't be a good interlocking. If there is no good interlocking, meaning the whole mechanical properties and also thermal or other properties will degrade. So this is the morphology result. So we can see 1% of PLA modified and then 3%. Can you see the voids here? So these are the voids. So these will actually cause, and this is even more and more. So as conclusion, this, although it's still in a pilot stage, surface modification of MMT with PLA is a promising approach to improve the compatibility and mechanical properties of the polymer composite. So 1% and 7% shows a good mechanical qualities, but the 5% blend was more appropriate for food application because it has lower elongation point. So when we go back to this graph again, right? So in this case, the 5% have lower elongation compared to this one. Why we need a lower elongation? So it have a good tensile strength. I mean, a good flexibility. However, there's a room of improvement since the surface finish flaws could affect the tensile strength result. So as I said, this is a pilot test and we are improving for every different works. So these are the future works that is applied. So as I mentioned just now, we are trying to apply another surface modification technique where we have self-fabricated in our School of Engineering, the UVO3 ozone, so to do a comparative study. So then we will see whether the fundamental acetylation or this dry oxidation UVO3 surface modification, which one will give a better result. And then we also want to change the fabrication process from compression to injection. Okay, so when you do compression, there's a lot of work and it's not practical for industrial scale because our ultimate aim is to produce the biodegradable plate and to commercialize. So if you want to commercialize, injection molding will be better compared to compression molding. Next, of course, we also want to do a comprehensive characterization involving physical, mechanical, thermal decomposition to meet the industrial needs. And once we have rectified all the issues with the blending, with the surface modification, then there will be a shift for this research for additive manufacturing processing technique, meaning we want to customize our own filament using this PLA MMT. We want to print and come up with our samples, prototype samples by ourselves. All right, so thank you. So as I mentioned, this is a joint collaboration with UPM under this Garan Putra. And also this paper has been accepted for further upgraded for publication and accepted in JMACI Scopus Index Q3 and will be published. Now it's under post-production and will be published online in September. Thank you. Any questions? Hello, hello.
Ooh.
Any questions? Learning something new. Okay. Aziz, Ali,
All
I
right.
think
So,
I'm done.
okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nishata, for your presentation this morning. So, we would like to proceed with the next presenter for today. Is Tatenda Tyrone Chirima is already inside this meeting or this seminar this morning? Calling for Tatenda Tyrone Chirima. Are you here? If not, can we proceed with Miss NoorHaiza? Is Miss NoorHaiza already prepared to present? Thank you, NoorHaiza. You can present your first title first.
Wait, okay. Stop sharing this. Okay, sorry, I thought I'm the last one. But it's okay. All right, thank you so much. Good morning. Okay, thank you for audience today. So I have two titles to be presented today. So I just choose one first, which actually let me share first. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Right. Okay. All right. Again, good morning, everyone. So this is actually my final year project students paper. Okay. So I presented this paper. This is a degree students actually, right? So I present this paper during the 5th hospitality conference in Windham Clan, okay, last year, December. So this paper is actually a collaboration as well with Sekolah Tinggi Pariwisata Bogor, Indonesia. So I presented on behalf of the students. So the title of this study is focused on the local community support towards creative tourism developments on Mojokerto City, Indonesia, which is actually one of the districts in Javanese. Okay, so I will go through with the details. The presenters. So now my student was doing his work in Doha. So I'm presented on behalf, and thank you to the PJRC for the conference fees for this paper, because I become the corresponding of the paper, and it's successful published in the Journal of Hospitality, Tourism and Culinary Art for special issue this year 2024. Okay. All right, so just a background about what we had for this study. So this study actually conducted during still in the COVID-19 time. Okay, so of course, when during COVID-19 times, tourism development, especially in the context of domestic tourism, is become a very what I say is very importance to the destination and especially to the governments to have a to have a new perspective on the way how they plan and strategize their tourism industry. So this is also the same things in Indonesia, where Indonesia always see a very good in terms of creative industry, because they have produced a very good creative industry, especially in their tourism development, which creating and increasing the employability of the area, especially in their assets, their branding, and also the local entrepreneurship. Okay, so by having this creative industry, especially in Mojokerto City, this very small city, a sub-district, they have a multiple creative industry that very unique to introduce to the tourists domestically or internationally. So they have a fashion, culinary or gastronomy. They are popular with the gastronomy as well. Craft arts, interior design, and others, right? So this is, there has a one of the policies, okay, in the Mojokerto City to be one of the highest, okay, creative industry cities, okay, in the Indonesia. So Mojokerto is like one of the example of this city that become a creative industry. So according to the studies, okay, from the scholars mentioned, okay, they have a three in the Mojokerto itself, okay, when you look into the geography area, they have a three main district, okay, that has their own unique of creative industry. One is Praja Kulon, which actually, if you know sepatu, I think you know if you know the group of sepatu, right? The community terms, I believe this come from this kampung. I don't know. because when I look into the oh, it's a patu. Okay, but they are popular, okay, with their shoes, okay, handicraft, and also batik, okay, batik, Mojokerto, okay, also have their own different with other Indonesian district, also in Malaysia also different. So this is actually the uniqueness that they are trying to bring for their creative industry. And then they have also Krangan district. They are more towards miniature, for example, like their craft miniatures like sheep. And then they have also silver, very popular. And Magasari, okay, Magasari is popular for culinary icon, which is actually they are popular with onde and keripik. So this is actually the uniqueness of the creative industry in Mojokerto itself. So they have most of the local community stays in this Mojokerto city actually is the local entrepreneur that having this kind of income. So they are highly focused on this kind of businesses compared than others. So that's the reason why Indonesian governments focus on this city to become a creative industry for the next coming year, not only domestic but also international development. So this is just few image, okay, how this creative industry portray in the district, like Project Kiton, they have their own statue of shoes that measure that, okay, this district has this kind of creative industry. Kragan, they have the miniature of sheep, and Magasari, you can find lots of culinary and gastronomy products, right? Okay, so this is the actually if you're looking into the history of Mojokerto, they are influenced with Majapahit history. So most of their craft, okay, and also batik actually is actually moving towards the Majapahit background. So that's why when you go to Mojokerto, you will find a slightly different, the unique of the craft itself compared than other Indonesian area, like for example maybe Yogyakarta, okay, different, and then maybe you're going to like Bandung or maybe other area of what I call Indonesia. So the elements of their batik is actually different from other districts. So this is the uniqueness that the creative industry brings to the destination. Okay. So they have the plan until 2034. This one is let me stop first. Then I just show you the info. So the city, okay, itself have their own master plan, 2019 to 2034, long way to go, to promote the creative industry as one of their main product. Okay, and they have this kind of footwear, batik, silver, and 40% of Mojokerto itself industry in 2019 becomes symbolic value to their destination. So they introduced one symbolic, I would say one identity of the city called one village, one product. So meaning that one village, okay, because in the district itself, like Magasari, Puji Kolon, and Kragan, they have many village. So what their plan is actually they wants to introduce one village, one product. So this is can see that lots when you go to the village, this is the product they have. So this is the way how they can bring up the creative industry of the city. So I just share with you what I had from this actually from YouTube. Okay. Even for your information, okay, Wonderful Indonesia is also they won a few like good slogans and also tourism industry in Asian. So perhaps I think Malaysia also can do a example as well, follow whatever that Indonesia had, because they are very good in terms of their product, especially in tourism. Okay, so moving toward literature, okay, for this study, okay, we are focused on one theory, okay, which actually social exchange theory, which is when talk about support, okay, so because our study is focused on local community support, so the theory that we are using here is actually focused on the social exchange theory, which is they are actually looking at the local community will look into the benefit and the disadvantage or positive, the negative of the cost. If they are moving towards these future developments of creative industry in Mojokerto. So when looking into creative tourism, many studies have mentioned that it is developed more sustainable in the context of local community needs and interests, and also raising more positive impacts toward the developments, especially in the context of social, economic, and culture setting, and as well as increase the community well-being and one of the alternative to mass tourism's development. So in Indonesia, not only in Mojokerto, creative tourism actually has not evolved optimally, despite the fact they have a very good product. For example, like in Jogja, like I mentioned just now, in Borobudur Temple, this is actually the industry that has not been able to be a tourism that can afford creative industry product yet. So meaning that they have a potential, but perhaps in based on the study, as I mentioned, that they are not evolved optimally. So by looking at what actually the perspective of the local community support perhaps can give more impacts to what actually the future developments happening, especially by looking at their plan 2019 to 2034. This is actually the hint to the governments to look into how the community should support in terms of the plan that they have, especially in the context of creative tourism. So by using the social exchange theory, we discover what actually the perspective of the local community in the Mojokerto city, and what is their positive and the negative impacts and or perception. And this is given an exchange process will happen once engaging the parties, okay, towards the benefit and the cost of the tourism and interaction between the sustainability developments. Okay, so this is actually the study side. Sorry, so this looking into this is Javanese, okay, map. Okay, so Mojokerto is in the center. Okay, and then there are small city. Okay, they are influenced by Majapahit history legends. They only have 16.45 kilometers square. This is a 3 main district that they have. Praja Kulon, Kerangan, and Magasari. Okay. And forward to what we had from the methodology, what we find out, okay, so this study is actually using quantitative method. So we distribute the questionnaire to these 3 main districts, and we successfully get respondent 43% for Makassari, 31% from Praja Kulon, and 26% from Kerangan. We use Rosov sample size calculator, which actually measure 9.78% margin error, which requires 400 sample minimum. And we had 104 respondents successful after we remove the error of the data. And since that this study has conducted during COVID-19, so we have limitations to go to this place. But since that the researcher, which is the students, this one is actually stay in this district, Mojokerto. So she has the kind of interaction with the local community. So this questionnaires distribute using structured questionnaire, okay, questionnaire-based survey, okay, through WhatsApp, okay, Google Form during the March 2022 throughout this March 2022. So we have a screening question. So the screening question actually requires them to answer in terms do you have the business of this kind of related to the creative industry, because we really want to only identify those who are having this kind of businesses. So in the questionnaire, we have a few parts, okay, demographic, economic benefit, environmental impact, social support, and support toward future developments, okay, which is what actually their perspective or perception towards this kind of creative industry when the government are trying to have this kind of plan. So we want to see what actually their future directions on this creative tourism. So we use 5-point Likert responses. We test the questionnaire to see the consistency of the question by using Chromebase alpha value, and SPSS software we're using to analyze the data. So this is the variables of the demographic profile according to the categories. Okay, we have males, and we also using dual language, which is Indonesian language and so English language, because this is towards a rural and village area. So some of the respondents, we want to simplify the questionnaire, so we direct into Indonesian language that we translate into English for the paper purposes, for the report purpose, right? So this is a sample of the questionnaire. And then the other variables, okay, in this study, actually, we do until the model, fit the model, but during the conference, I just presented in terms of the descriptive analysis, okay, to see how the impacts of this social exchange towards the future developments of Mojokerto in the context of tourism, creative tourisms. So by looking at this a variable, which is we have economics and environmental and also social and culture. For economic benefit, the result shows the mean score shows most of the respondents agree that the creative tourism actually improved their standard of living, and they are really looking into that. Only the last items, which is creative tourism result, is an increase in the cost of living, which is they don't see this one not really into their nature of works. Okay. For environmental impact, okay, most of respondents mentioned that they are not really feel uncomfortable living in tourism spots. So meaning that this is something that we need to look into, even though the governments are trying so hard to do in terms of this kind of developments, especially in the creative tourism. But the perspective of the local community towards these tourist hotspots not really reached to their level yet, which is they are not really comfortable. So this is something that they need to look into, how they want to ensure the equal benefit towards the local community and developments happening there, because in the end we want to be more sustainable in the context of social and culture and also environment. But unfortunately, because of this, most of the respondents mentioned that they are not really feel uncomfortable. So this is actually also another area that need to look into when it comes to this kind of impacts. And the other two is social support and community support. So most of these respondents actually they are support. Okay, we'll look into the result. They are support, but perhaps need to look into how the other impacts can be can rectify by the government, especially how can we make every developments is equally, and local community is having equally I say equally benefit to that particular plan. So in the end, when local community support, so wherever that the future development happening in the Mojokerto is can be done properly towards the master plans that they are planning to. Okay. So we are in the end, okay, of the presentation. So as we know that it's just a very surface of study, we cannot we can confirm that from the study, we can see that it is good to have some things new in the area, but in the end, the supports by the local community is very important and look into what actually the benefit that we can do. So this study is actually to reveal what actually the local community perceive in the context of this creative tourism developments that actually to bring more benefit rather than the cost. And of course, by looking at this study, they have a very high level of support, but just look into which area need to be improved, especially towards the improvement of standard of life, local benefit, and also provide employment opportunity. So the recommendation for this study, actually, we are suggested to have more bigger sample size. And it is nice if, let's say, this study can do mixed method, for example, doing qualitative, the interview session, which we have face-to-face interaction to look into where is the gap into this kind of future developments and to have more variables to be into this kind of establishment. Okay, so I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, NoorHaiza, for the first presentation for today. Any questions so far? So if you guys do not have any question for Ms. NoorHaiza for the first presentation, can we proceed with the next presentation from Mr. Tatenda Tyrone, Chirima. Is it correct?
Yes, hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Can you
All
hear me loud
if
and
you're
clear?
ready, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let
So
me
if
just
you're
share
ready,
this.
yep. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. Okay, now we can see it.
All right, let me just get into full screen. Okay, good morning, everyone. Excuse me if I sound sleepy or look sleepy. It's currently 4 a.m. here in Zimbabwe at the moment. But my name is Tatenda Chirima. Today I'll be presenting on the research paper titled Performance Comparison of Machine Learning and Neural Networks for Sitting Posture Detection amongst University Students. So looking at what posture is, this is the position the body holds when it is activating muscles and being supported by these activated muscles. And this allows us to conduct and coordinate our movement and body parts and so forth. So looking at also what posture detection system is, this is a system that detects the changes in the position of this body as well as the activation of the muscles. So the importance of this research was initially just to understand the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic at the time. But as time went on and as we continued to do research and read through existing work that has been done with regards to posture, we found out that sitting posture is actually still something that is yet to be understood and to gain clear understanding of what a good sitting posture would be, and also understanding what advancements could be made in smart clothing technology and how it would be easily implemented or made more affordable. Looking at the rehabilitation of patients as well was something that we found out was still quite backdated with regards to how patients are observed when they go back home or they're undergoing self-rehabilitation and so forth. So this work would have been really helpful in advancing that information as well. So having read through some of the research, we found out that the detection of posture is actually split into two broader categories, which the detection part of it and then the classification part of it. So the detection part of it looks at the wearable and non-wearable methods, and then the classification looked at the implementation of supervised algorithms and unsupervised algorithms. So both approaches had their disadvantages, which we tried to address in the work that we did. And looking at perhaps wearable detection, these had the issues whereby either the technology used was going to be very expensive with regards to the surface electromyographic sensors, or that they restricted movement with regards to like accelerometers or strain sensitive clothing. And non-wearable detection had the issues that these sensors had to be put in chairs or so forth where the person was sitting with regards to force and pressure sensors, and image processing or computer vision methods made it difficult when the person was sitting in a dimly lit room to be able to detect their posture. With regards to the classification of posture, supervised algorithms involved machine learning algorithms such as VSMs, whereby these were then tailored by the people to their specific needs with regards to how their attributes in their data look like and so forth. And with unsupervised algorithms, these were very computer intensive, and so they had the issue of being hard to carry out with classification with regards to how the posture was being detected and how long it took. So some of the statistics that came out, especially during the pandemic, were that a lot of people, especially those who were remotely working and students as well, were experiencing some form of musculoskeletal disorders, whether it was their neck pain, shoulder pain, or their wrists and so forth. And surprisingly enough, such conditions are actually affected by the position of the spine. And so this is becoming very prevalent, especially considering that university students sit more now, especially with the introduction of distance learning. And so this was just a highlight as to the importance of this work as well, as we were conducting our studies and research in understanding where the current work is with regards to posture detection. So the approach we took was very favorable with regards to pricing as well as implementation. We decided to go with a wearable device, which basically allowed someone to detect their posture while they're still mobile, and they could actually stand and move or pick up something while they're sitting and so forth. And the detection methodology that we used was going to be implementing accelerometer technology, just because of the affordability of the hardware and the implementation as well. So in classification, we actually decided to take both approaches with regards to using machine learning as well as neural network algorithms to gain an understanding of how both would handle the data and how they would compare against each other. So our proposed system basically used 3 MUN sensors that would have their data stored onto an SD drive, and then the raw data was then pre-processed and fed into the algorithms that allowed us to then generate the desired outcomes with regards to what posture the person was sitting in during a certain period of time. So this is just a real life picture of the circuitry of the system, and the wiring was the biggest issue with regards to how robust the system is, but over time we were able to streamline it and actually be able to attach it to a body vest, which is the picture on your far left. And these are the positions that we actually place the sensors along the spine. With the research that we conducted, we actually noticed that with the use of accelerometer sensors, we didn't necessarily have to have more than 3, just because the major curves of the spine were actually able to activate the displacements in the 3 axes of these sensors to be able to then use that data and classify the particular position that someone is actually sitting in. So we actually designed a user interface that provided feedback with regards to what the posture someone was sitting in and for how long in seconds during a certain period of time. And this was actually made in MATLAB app designer. So this was also able to be deployed like onto a web app or into a downloadable application down the line after, you know, testing and so forth. So this would just allow people or perhaps caregivers to understand that during a space of time like 2 hours, how long was someone actually sitting in a good posture, how long were they sitting in a forward head posture, and so forth. Our data collection actually involved patients to go through what we titled unsupervised experiments and supervised experiments. So unsupervised data basically involved a person sitting for up to 15 minutes in any way that they preferred, and they were actually asked to either type or a document or watch a YouTube video on their computer at a school desk. And this just allowed them to relax and not focus on how they're sitting, to ensure that perhaps they were not biased towards how they were sitting and so forth. And with regards to the supervised data, this was basically information from the user that was collected when they were actually performing said positions for a certain period of time, and they had to follow a certain regimen with the use of circuit application that they would have on their desk. So this is just the outline of the experiments, like I mentioned in the previous slide. And so we actually developed up to 5 postures that we would classify eventually from the supervised experiment. And these included the good posture, relaxed posture, slouching forward, slouching back, and then the forward head posture. So over time, these would allow us to gain a better understanding with regards to how we would then present our information to our algorithms, and, you know, make it easier to understand with regards to the raw data that when someone is sitting, how long were they sitting in this posture for, and for how long were they relaxed in between those postures, and so forth. These are basically pictures to outline the said postures in both experiments. So in the unsupervised experiment, someone would then perform 2 postures where they would exercise a good posture for the first 10 to 15 seconds. Then after that, they could just relax and then conduct their work at the desk in a way that is comfortable to them. And then that would help us understand, based on the supervised data, in what posture that they're sitting in the most. And these are the postures that were then detected in the supervised experiment. And on the left, you see a screenshot of the circuit application and the sequence of postures that were conducted and for how long when the experiment was being carried out. So after we received the data from our participants, we actually just went through some of, you know, the issues that we faced in our data collection, basically. And we noticed that the sensor orientation and proximity to the body played a big part in how well those results would come out. So if we attach the sensors to the body in a way that made them skewed in any of the axes, then this would then present an issue when we are now trying to classify the data. But over time, we noticed that the longer that the participant would wear them, and perhaps these inaccuracies carried through the experiment, you would find that the algorithms will actually pick up on this and then do their best to classify according to the rest of the data from the other participants. So user bias was also something we noticed, even though we tried our best to distract the users from sitting as well as usually they would still be some bias in regards to how a person would sit and how they would behave when they have these sensors on. And sampling rates as well was something that we paid attention to over time during testing, because we noticed that a lower sampling rate would affect the data collected, because if someone fidgeted in milliseconds or so forth, then and the results are taken every second, you would miss those minor changes in the posture, and that would maybe even affect the robustness of our algorithms when they are now being used in real-time detection. So this is just a screenshot of our pre-processing procedure. So the data was extracted in text file format, and then this was just easily converted to an Excel file using Microsoft Excel. And then within Excel, we just neatly arranged the data into the 3 axes for each sensor and maintained the time column in seconds. And then we added a classification column of the particular posture that was conducted for a certain period of time, because we had the time recording for the posture. So the implementation that we used for our algorithms used a transfer learning approach with regards to the algorithms. So these were not designed from scratch. So more attention was paid to the presentation of our data to allow it to be fed into the algorithms. So we used the MATLAB classification learner app to understand what machine learning algorithm performed the best across 58 algorithms or configurations within the application. And the bagged tree preset had the highest test accuracy of a 94.3%, and that allowed us to further develop it and play with it to see how well to do if certain parameters were performed or adjusted and so forth. But we actually settled on the default settings for this algorithm, which secured the 94.3% accuracy in testing. And for the neural network, we actually used a cloud-based algorithm classifier that allowed us to also play with the source. Like we could choose the source of our data, how it's presented, the sampling rate, and so forth, and the window size in terms of how many seconds in between each reading did we actually gain from the raw data. And that allowed us to then classify and play around with the architecture and so forth. So we actually settled on a dense neural network that had an input layer of up to 4,500 and then had a dropout rate of 0.2. But I think overall we had up to 10 layers within our architecture. And this actually allowed us to identify the areas where each algorithm was performing the best and where it was not in comparison to the other. So these are just the results from each of the algorithms. We'll notice that for the machine learning algorithm, it performed the best, and it performed the best in the, I think it says here, it performed the best in the forward head posture. And we noticed that within this algorithm, it was able to detect the forward head posture the most. But we also understand that there were a lot of conflicts with regards to, for example, the forward head posture. It would actually detect good posture most when it was actually a forward head posture at that time. So this also highlights in our discussion further down in the presentation what we concluded with regards to this work. So looking at the results for the dense neural network, it was also able to perform pretty well with regards to the slouching forward, and the confusion was also there with regards to it says here, the confusion was more prominent in the slouching forward posture, sorry. And so this will highlight the overlaps in regards to the posture, and noticing that when someone is actually sitting, they exhibit elements of several other postures. So this is something that we were able just to deduce and understand from this research work. So drawing a comparison analysis between the two postures, the neural network algorithms were slightly better in the test accuracy than the machine learning algorithm. However, we also noticed that the highest classification for each posture were the same as well, but they had different accuracies. So slouching back was the highest detected posture in both algorithms, but within the neural network, it was able to classify it 100% of the time, whereas with the machine learning algorithm, it was only able to classify it 96% of the time. However, the lowest classification were different for both algorithms. For the neural network classification, it was the relaxed posture, which had a very lower percentage with 87.5%, and for the machine learning, it was slouching forward with a 89.7% as well. So both algorithms also had different issues with regards to the postures that they confused. For the machine learning algorithm, it was the good posture and forward head posture, and then for the neural network, it was the relaxed and hunched back posture, which was basically showing that either someone was relaxed and they were exhibiting a hunched back posture, or the two postures had similar feature attributes, basically. So another thing that we also highlighted with regard to the comparisons in these algorithms was how we presented the data to each of them. So with the machine learning algorithm, the data was compiled into one file, and then within the neural networks, we actually separated the data into specific positions for each participant, and then we fed them into the algorithms. And perhaps that is how these differences were then arrived up to. So the conclusion that we detected were that overlaps in posture were very prominent, even in the slightest times. And this is also shedding light on the regards to why good posture is something that's still misunderstood and unknown. And we also were able to classify specifically what posture someone is sitting in both algorithms. So they were able to handle that pretty well. However, it is important to mention that with the machine learning algorithm, it had issues with classifying the unsupervised data, which was the data where someone was not instructed to perform a particular posture for a particular time. So it would either just classify this as relaxed or classify this as a forward head posture or what have you, and neglect that the user was actually sitting for a good posture for the first 10 to 15 seconds. And another thing that we noticed was that the presentation of data was a very important aspect in regards to the performance of the algorithm, and perhaps further research would be needed to be performed with regards to how the data is presented and how it is arranged and so forth, to understand how much of an impact that data presentation has on the classification or the performance of the algorithms in classifying posture. And I think in future, we would hope to automate the data pre-processing stage of our data collection. And we'll also hope to actually make our solution a real-time detection and classification system, just to ensure its efficiency and usability. And also would like to make it remote and wireless with regards to the data transfer straight from the microcontroller to the software on the computer. We would hope to make it seamless with regards to avoiding the removal of the SD card and then pre-processing the data, and just have it done remotely on device, and then show the results directly in our user interface over time. And that brings me to the Q&A section of my presentation. Thank you for listening and for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from the participants? So basically, Mr. Chirima said, upon viewing the poster image, I instantly check in my own poster, noticing that I have a hunchback poster and a slouching back blouse. Do you have any comment on that?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the comment, sorry.
Okay. So she said, upon viewing the poster image, I instantly check in my own poster, noticing that I have a hunchback poster and a slouching back blouse.
Yeah, I think when I was also conducting the research and testing my system on myself, I would notice these things as well. So I think it's work that is shed light on how we also behave. Sometimes we sit like this when we actually don't notice it because it's natural or it's something that we've been doing as children. So I think this research and work and this system has also shed light or just brought awareness to each of us or to the people that are involved as to how they sit. And these are habits that we develop over time. So I think it's important to develop good sitting habits as well. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much,
Thank you again
Mr.
to
Tatenda and Chirima, for sharing for this morning. Right, really appreciate it at 4 a.m. in the morning, right?
this. Yeah, thank you again to
Okay.
UOW for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time also.
All right, let me just.
So now, can we proceed with Miss NoorHaiza again for our last presentation of our session for this morning?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Proceed, Kirk, or we have a break? No, right? Just
Yeah,
proceed.
just proceed. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. So hello again. Then I show my camera with Okay, all right. So again, thank you so much, Imran. Okay, and everyone those who are here. Okay, so this is my last conference last year. Okay, this one, this one when I forgot when. Oh, this one in Penang. Okay, the international Penang conference. Okay, so just I want to acknowledge this. Actually, I received a grant from our internal grant. So it is grant 2021 to 2020, no, 2022 is really started 2022 to 2024 February. Okay, so it's already done, completed, but it's just to finalize the acceptance of the publication still pending. Okay, so this topic actually part of my whole idea of my research. Okay, talking about sustainable community livelihood. So this one part I take out from my model, all right? So I discover something unique about this and we present it during the conference. So the title of this conference is Assessing the Local Community Livelihood Resources in Coastal and Marine Tourism Destination Development in Malaysia, preliminary findings. So this research is, we have combinations of researcher from UITMs and also from UPM. So I'm the main authors of this research. Okay, so we go to the background. So this is me, okay, mine. So I just mentioned about livelihood, okay. It's a well-being actually, it's another terms of well-being, okay. But I just my study is focused on sustainable livelihood. And then of course when talk about sustainable livelihood is more towards hunger, economic developments and social and development. So we know that poverty, hunger, malnutrition and natural disaster is also another issue happening in worldwide and as well in tourism developments. Is given attention to the sustainable livelihood, and this is actually moving towards sustainable development goal as well, moving towards the more better way of life of people who are stays in, especially in the islands, because my study is focused on the island community. Okay, so the background of the studies, I start with the tourism industry as a whole, and we know that it is not new that tourism industry actually given extensions of diversification of tourism destination and the travel market is actually every year we can see that the momentum of tourism industry is reviving back after COVID-19. And then looking at the momentums of the marine and coastal tourism, and we know Malaysia, one of the countries that full with the islands as one of the main product, okay, and we should taking care and looking at this kind of area more, because if you're looking into marine park conservation as well, we have more than 40 plus of marine park, meaning that we see that the importance of marine and coastal tourism actually in Malaysia, and is looking at the scholars have mentioned that it is a world fastest expanding business. So meaning that the livelihood of the community itself should be main concern in the context of the development. So looking at the attentions, many scholars, even current scholars also had mentioned that is a limited attention, especially in the context of this marine coastal destination in Malaysia specifically. So this is the way, this is the why we are conducting this study, to find out this and to filling up this gap and looking at how this can give a good intention to the policy maker, especially in the context of a livelihood of the community. So looking at the resources and value is very complicated to the local people, especially to afford their life in their own community itself. So because of we can see the vulnerability and the shock always happening. Talking about COVID-19 is there, but moving towards the what happened in environment currently, like climate change, this is also another exposure that given too much of impacts to the community to sustain their original livelihood. And if we are imposed tourism industry, does this given a more beneficial to them? So this is the study that we are trying to do in the context of marine and coastal tourism. So in the literature review, actually we conducted SLR, if you're familiar with this one. This is actually to find a gap of the methodology and the current study, especially in the Malaysian context, because this is very important to fill up the gap. So we tackle in terms of literature review first, which is we are conducted very systematic literature review, focusing on the whole concept of our study, which is sustainable developments, the blue economy. And why blue economy? Because when we know that all the activities related to islands, marine and coastals actually in the group of a blue economy. So even blue economy is not new, but it just been highlighted very important. It's just in the recent one because of the environmental impacts that happening in this what I call in this situation. Okay, and our concept is actually more focused on sustainable livelihood concept, which actually looking in this general framework, okay, by Chambers Conway 1992. This is the flow of how we want to move into the livelihood outcome. They are not mentioned sustainable, but our study is focused on how we want to measure the sustainable livelihood. So by integrating this kind of components, okay, starting with the asset or resources, if we given influence, okay, to the strategies that the destination will do, and in the end, it's given more strengthened livelihood towards their outcome. So by looking at this area, this study, during the conference, I focus on one area, which is livelihood asset itself. So that's why I circle it. So the other rest is what is actually is my own model later on. So still in finalizing. Okay, so looking at this, actually I'm conducting qualitative, but in this context I do quantitative to find general perspective in terms of the local community in the context of their livelihood asset. Okay, all right, so looking into systematic literature review is known also as we use our study use a PRISMA, or known as the preferred reporting item for systematic review of meta-analysis, where we tackle in terms of Malaysia context. So we have identified there's a few processes in the PRISMA itself. One is actually the first one, we need to identify the processes of what is the main keywords of the sustainable livelihood itself, especially in the context of coastal and marine tourism development. So the main keyword that we are searching first in the literature is actually sustainable livelihood, marine, coastal, rural tourism and development. And from the main keyword, we identify the process by using the enriched keyword, which is we more specific, and we use treasurers, okay, to find another synonym words that can be linked back to the main keyword. So that's a process that we do before we can go for the gap of the study. Okay, and then from the identification process, we use another searching, which we use string search by using a very impactful and prominent articles or database from Scopus, WAS and Science Direct. So from this database, we screening more impactful and meaningful articles that can be used in the context of this sustainable livelihood and coastal and marine. Okay, so this is the just practices that we do. And then the next step is, instead of we screen, we also have a criteria of the database or the articles, whereby we have inclusion and exclusions of the specific database based on the timeline, because in this study we want to look into the current situation happening in relation to this study. So we just include the timeline between 2016-2022, and we just select the empirical data, and we select English language and focus on social science only, because when look into marine and coastal, not only it is also maritime study, so ocean wave, so we don't want to include that one because it's not so much related to tourism development. So that's why we just focus on the subject area of social science, and we only focus on the relevancy of the keyword. The first one that we are mentioned just now, how the main keyword and the enriched keyword play a very important in order you to get the results of your specific literature review. Because when talk about literature review, not every literature review is given a very impactful to your study. So by having this kind of systematic literature review, is given you a very direct towards this is the main things that you need to focus and fill up the gap. So from the 235 articles, okay, we need to go through and then we screen up only 21 study, okay, that we use to find the gap of the marine and coastal and focus on sustainable livelihood. So only 21 we screen and find out which is the gap of the study in the context of this and also in Malaysia. And surprisingly, okay, talking about Malaysia context, when we find out this SLR, it is a very little study focused on sustainable livelihood itself. I'm not talking about marine, but I'm talking about sustainable livelihood. It's a very unique because in many country, okay, looking into is this is 21 total of journal that we are focused. Only like I would say number 10 Bakar and Muda 17 and Masud 3 only that are focused on sustainable livelihood, which actually focus on tourism development. So meaning that we still have a very lack of studies in terms of this. And then talking about marine and coastal also, like I mentioned, Malaysia is abundant with islands, and we should look into this kind of development is not only in terms of how environment given an impact to the climate change given an impact to environment, but also how this given an impact to the local community. So this is the reason why we did this study, because we want to see how these developments in Malaysia given an impact to this particular livelihood in the context of marine and coastal. So looking at the study that I mentioned now, I focus on asset. So most of and majority of the journal have mentioned about how important resources towards the other influence of other variables, right? So this is the context of livelihood resource. I retrieve from the literature that have done that one. So this is the sources based on the definition. What is the financial asset? So financial asset is actually focused on the income, investment and the job opportunity of the people that stay in the area. Social asset is actually the interaction, how the people communicate, how people interact with the people. Okay, so this is also we measure on that. And then human asset, looking into all the skills, very unique because we know that how the skills can give an impact to the community and in the end given a benefit to the people. And physical asset in terms of infrastructure and facility of the islands. And lastly is their natural asset, which is the environmental of the islands. So how the ecosystems, how when the activities included, okay, or imposed in their livelihood, how this given more impacts towards their natural assets. So this is also another area that we are looking for. So there has a main 5 asset that we are measuring for livelihood asset or resources. It's the same thing. Asset or resources is the same thing. Okay, so looking at the study side, when we conduct this study, actually we are focused in one island. Okay, we're actually started in Perak states. Okay, this is very this is another islands that is listed as duty-free islands after Langkawi and Tioman. Okay, we have 3 different, which is Langkawi, Tioman, but Tioman is not so commercial like Langkawi. So we have Langkawi and then we have Pangko Island. So 2022, Pangko has gazetted to be a duty-free island. But of course, 2022 is COVID because actually it's moving toward the Visit Malaysia 2020. That's the reason why we push Pangko and Perak to have a list in this Visit Year Malaysia 2020, and one of the reason why gazetted in 2020 as duty free because moving towards the Visit Malaysia 2020, but unfortunately we have a COVID, so that's kind of plan is not getting is not good. Okay, so we stopped at that, but of course, we want to measure how this also given an impact to the people itself in the context of livelihood. Okay, so this is a small island. Okay, they have a major village from A to B to C. Sorry, I think I put it wrong. So we have a main area. Most of the, you can see from the map itself, most of the community actually stay in the coastal area. You can see the center itself is a Hutan Simpan Pangko, which is a preservation area, but not so many of people are stayed there, but majority of the local community actually living in the coastal area. Exclude the Pangkor Laut, because Pangkor Laut is not, it's not part of it's a Pangkor, but it's not a main area to be developed, okay, because of they have their own island land to island itself, so that they are not included in this strategy and plan of the main Pangkor Island itself. Okay, so as we know, okay, when we study the rancangan kerajaan and also the Malaysia plan, okay, especially the Perak States plan, we see a lots of plan have been done, okay, until they rejuvenate the islands to be a duty-free island in 2022, and also to become this island to be a premier sustainable tourism destination. But unfortunately, okay, the impact actually limited and deteriorating. So this is actually happening in islands because when they're gazetted, okay, actually the plan is started in 1970s, okay, it's not new, but until 2015, and then they become duty free in 2020. So we can see has a lots of developments happening since 1970 until today even, okay, but we don't see much in terms of how this given an impact to the local community, especially in their society. So that's the reason why we do this kind of study. And we know that when it comes to marine and coastal, fisheries is the main economic activities of the island. So this is a key economy of the Pangkor Islands, which is they have tourisms, fisheries, and other economic activities like other maritimes like wholesale, retail, commerce, and boat building. So this is the area we segregate, okay, into the location. So the area of marine is normally focused on this village. Coastal focus on this village, as actually in Pangkor, most of the tourism activities have been done in the coastal area, which you can find in village E, F, A, and D, which is Teluk Nipah, Pasir Bogak, Teluk Kecil, Teluk Belanga. So this is the main activities that and commonly tourists will do, okay. But other parts still is because Pangkor is not big, it's very small. It just like takes you around half an hour, maybe 40 minutes to just go around in the island circle. It's just 12,000 kilometers per square only, okay. So I done visit this place, I think third time already, okay. This is the uniqueness of the local communities because the main people is actually having fishery activities, and the main fisheries product that they have is actually anchovies, which is the blue eye. Okay, the blue eye in Pangkor and the blue eye anchovies in Sabah is totally different because I went to this the area and figure out, okay, what actually the unique about Pangkor anchovies is the blue eye. It's very small, not so expensive. You can go there and then you buy, and you can find the difference between Sabah and also Pangkor. The unique about Pangkor because they are in a slide, okay, so they're covered, okay, and then the water also greener compared than the Sabah side, which is a blue because they're open sea. So of course the difference is in terms of the production. So this is a big ship, okay, when they caught, so inside the ship they have water tank, hot water tank, so they will dip, okay, after they caught these anchovies, they will dip all these anchovies in one tank to remove the saltiness, okay, to reduce the saltiness of this anchovies. So this is the way how they do the process of these product fisheries. And then they also have area of their own seafood product process. Okay, most of the community will do this kind when they are become fishermen. So of course, sometimes they do either is small scale business or the big scale business that which is they are bring outside from the states, right? So this is most of the activities that you can do in Pangkor. Either you do coastal activities, jet skis. We have also snorkeling, but the problem of snorkeling, you can't see much the Nemo or the whatever fish because the issue now is actually is a coral issue. Okay. And also there has a heritage site, the Dutch area, the fort, okay, the Dutch fort, because the Pangkor, right, the Pangkor agreement, all this one in the history, Malaysian history, so you can go to the site, okay. to look into the what is actually happening there during the Dutch time. And then the new attractions there is also the we call Masjid Terapung or Blue Mosque. Okay, very nice at night time. So this is a new one during the Zamri, Dr. Zamri, our now is a Ministry of Education, Higher Education, right? So Dr. Zamri actually is the person who are bring out this kind of idea to plan tourism development in Pangkor, because he is a local people of Pangkor. So this is his idea. So when you went there, you can see this one. And then, of course, knowing Pangkor, they are popular with this kind of taxi, even though they're not say that this is a bus, but they call it pink taxi. Okay, so this is a very common. Okay, so this is about our study site. Okay, and looking into the methodology of this study is we are using quantitative for our primary visit, focus on the livelihood asset or resources. So we just collect around 64 respondents randomly in the 5 main village. Questionnaire-based survey administrative verbally. We do double language, dual language. One is Mandarin and one is in Malay. Okay, then we translate into English because mainly, okay, the population of the community in the Pangkor Island is in these two, okay, which is main Indian also had, okay, main one is Malay, Chinese and Malay. So this is a two main, so that's why we need to translate here because in, for example, in fisheries area, fisherman area, so most of them is a Chinese community. Okay, so 5 Likert scales, and we use descriptive analysis to analyze those assets. So from the result, this is a result. So there are gender between male and female, Malay, Chinese, Indian, and others. So majority other is from Chinese and lead for Malay and Indians. Most of them are married, age between 17 to 56 years and above. Household income, their household income is actually between thousands to 7,000, okay, or it can up to more than that, but actually not so many. Average, they can go into 5,000 only. Looking at, it's a seasonal, depends on the income. Okay, and job sectors, most of the local community have a mix of employability. Some of them are fishery with tourism or service, also known as services. Some of them are focused, but our inclusion is only focused on services, even though fishery is still there, but it's inclusions of the job sectors. So from the perceptions of the community towards their livelihood resources, most of them financial asset, actually, we figure out that they are having lack of knowledge, okay, in terms of how they want to manage their financial investment, okay, because they know what is money is all about, but towards the manageable of their financial investment, actually, they are having lacking on that. This is very important to measure because maybe they don't have skills. That's the reason why these livelihood resources measure all these kind of resources. One of the component is the skills, right? So social interaction, I would say that they have that kind of interactions, but maybe they don't have really build up more trust and assistance among neighborhood. In Pangkor, when we do a study, we figure out there is two main organization, not organization, I'm not saying club, they have two, which is one is the for beach boy club, and then one of the chalet, okay, budget chalet organization. So they are more focused on this social interaction. Anything that they want to get information, they will get through from this particular person in charge, right? And then natural asset, we figure out that they know what is actually natural asset is all about, but incorporating blue economy concept into asset is not getting there yet. So that's the reason why we need to do this kind of study to find out, yes, how this kind of natural asset can be incorporated in the blue economy concept. And then the physical asset, most of the majority of the local community feels that the physical asset like infrastructures, water supply and everything is improved and easy to access individually. And lastly, human asset is a very crucial, but for their perspective, they say that everything is at the good time, okay, or area. But actually, when I conducted another one more round of study, especially the qualitative part, there is another area that the local community highlighted. That one may be in either discussion, yeah. Okay, so that's overall in terms of perspective of or perceptions of local community towards their livelihood asset or resources. So it's just a general to see how this kind of perspective given an impact to the overall of livelihood outcome. But it's just not, it's just a survey. That's why this study is just preliminary findings, because we need to dig up more, because that's why we propose also for having a qualitative to get more information towards their perception and how this is given an impact to other strategy, because in the livelihood framework itself, there has at least like 6 components to be measured. And then how another element like vulnerability also need to take into account, which actually also given an impact to the livelihood resources. So everything is actually connected to each other. So that's actually the framework I'm trying to tell to the audience, okay, what actually the sustainable livelihood itself. Okay, so that's actually the end of my study. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. NoorHaiza, for your second presentation for today. Any questions so far from other participants? All right, so thank you again, Ms. NoorHaiza, for your time. Okay, so there's one question from the Dr. So she said, thank you for the interesting sharing. I would like to ask if there are any drawbacks when disseminating question as to locals.
Yes, we had. So during my data collection, we bring students, okay, to help and assist, which actually the drawback is just actually the language. So that's the challenge that, you know, that we are facing during the data collection, because some of them are, you know, they cannot speak in Malay, okay, and especially in the community while stay in the fisheries area. So we need to bring students, okay, to translate on them. So what is this? And of course, another challenge is to sit and give them, you know, understanding in terms of what is study, because for them, this is according to their perspective. They say that it's a lot of study have been done here. What actually you want actually? Because Bangko is not new to do the, you know, lots of research, okay, lots have been done, but in the end, for them, they are very cooperative, but in terms of language. So meaning that Malay and Chinese language is the main thing. So we need to tackle in terms of this one. That's the drawback that we have during the questionnaire distribution. That's why the 64 respondent that we distributed is actually also face to face, which is that we go one by one area. It's not that just sharing because we use a paper base. Okay, we don't have this kind of online or whatever, because we also want to indicate another things during the data collection. So that's the way how we conduct the data distribution among the local. I think language is always a drawback when it comes to data collection for local communities. It depends on the destination. English is not very, that's why we need to translate it. I hope this answer your question, Dr. Azrin.
Okay, so I think that's all from the participants. Nothing or no more question to ask. Right. So I would like to say thank you once again to the speakers for today, research seminar session. So I hope to see you everyone on 31st of July. For those who already registered for that day, we have another speakers and more topics to come. Until then, see you guys later and thank you very much for today. Right, so I will end the session right now. Is there anything else? If no, I will end it right now.